Welcome back to another episode of Think Like a Leader. I'm your host, Dorian, and today I'm joined by Arias WebsterBerry, a digital marketing CEO and entrepreneur who has turned his personal adversity into a blueprint for success. From homelessness and loss to founding WebsterBerry Marketing, Ignite Funnels, and launch Ignition AI, generating over $112 million in revenue. Ari's story is remarkable. I had the opportunity to talk with Arias about his mission, and I'm excited to share that today. Today, we're actually going to be unpacking the gritty life of an entrepreneur, leading teams with heart, the cost of going all in, something that he mentioned to me called authority stacking, and then obviously all the digital marketing tactics to attract leads and dollars. I am really, really excited to jump into this conversation. Arias, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Hey, Dorian, man. First off, thank you for having me. I've listened to the show, man, and you and I kind of talking through things, and I love how you're diving beneath the surface. So hopefully we can do the same.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. First off, I've received that. And I want to start here with your, add context to the audience. Your path from childhood that we talked about is marked by a lot of hard things, homelessness. You've had loss of your father, but now you're leading multi-million dollar businesses, and it's unbelievable, right? That is an unbelievable story. What's one pivotal moment from your past that's defined how you approach leadership and entrepreneurship today?
Um, that's a good question. I would say I would probably say I was working as a call center manager many years ago, and I kind of came in. The program was not doing really well. It was a program for Mercedes-Benz. We were doing sales, and I came in, man, and my team within, I want to say, like 4 months or so, we ended up being the top selling team in the company, right, in that division. Um, and it was because I took a very hands-on approach to building my team, right? So where most of the other sales managers would just kind of get some random people in, they kind of take them through the paces, train them a little bit. I actually decided to get in front of the ball, and I partnered with the recruitment manager, right? I met with him, became friends with him, and I started talking to him, and I would go visit the recruitment classes, right? I'd go speak, I'd go kind of train a little bit, and I'd also kind of keep my eye out for some great talent, right? And I'd spend more time with those people and make sure that they kind of landed on my team. And I kind of very much took a approach of knowing who my guys were and figuring out why they were here, what their reason for being here was, and help them achieve it. And we were killing it. And then they came to me and they said, "Hey, you're doing such a good job. I'm going to take your team and I'm going to split it up. We're going to split up your entire team." Right? We were just killing it. Right? Some really,
Yeah.
really high numbers, almost setting records for the company. And that moment really stuck with me because I had done so much work to build my team, right? To bond them to me, to go past just, "Hey, I'm your boss, do what I say," but really trying to figure out what it is that they were trying to accomplish and help them actually reach it. I knew the name of their kids. I knew, that they were trying to buy a new car. I knew that they were trying to get a new apartment, because they were about to get kicked out of their last one, all these different things. And I poured my heart and soul into these people. And when it comes to my style of leadership, um, I realized that me treating people like people and not just a cog in my machine is the reason that we succeeded. But the leadership that was above me didn't treat me like a person. They treated me like a cog in the machine. They figured out if they took this piece that was in the machine that was working really well and they took it apart and kind of took some of the good parts and put it all in different places, maybe it would make the whole engine run better. Um, but the reality was they didn't care about us. They cared about them. And I never wanted anybody in any of my companies to feel that way.
Man, that's powerful. That's truly a powerful story because it's a it's connection that really matters. I think, and that's a huge takeaway that I gained from this story because the best leaders, the leaders that, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, working with them, they are the connectors, really. They are the ones that are connecting with their team, having connecting their teammates with one another, right? I think that connection piece has a lot to do with, successful leadership. Um, but we all know in the world, entrepreneur world, being a leader, it is not easy, right? So in when this grind does get tough, which whether it's self-doubt or the weight of leading your teams and being successful at leading your teams, what's the one guiding belief or like mindset that you would say that you always return to in order to keep pushing forward and lead with that purpose that you lead with?
I guess the one guiding belief is that it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is. Right. If you're running a business or if you're managing a team, and the chips are down, it's never as bad as you think it is. It could be worse. The chips could be, you could have less. You could be in the negative, right? And when your things are going great and you're killing it, it's never as good as you think it is, right? There's always a bigger dog. There's always someone who's doing better, that's further along than you, that is on the precipice, that is carving a new path in innovating in your space. And the key is to stay level. Dream big and work small, right? We have massive, massive goals to be, one of the number one African American owned marketing agency in the world, right? By 2034. That's a decade out, right? But the way we get there is showing up every single day and treating it like we're performing for that prize today. Um, and realizing again that it's never as good or bad as you think it is.
Man, that's so good. Paint us a picture because we kind of you almost went into it, but how does that belief show up in the day to day work? Like when you're strategizing or working with your team, how are you using it, and how do you have your team kind of adopt this mindset as well?
Um, I think today I did it. I was sitting with my social media team, what we call social authority, and I said, hey, I guess one of the philosophies we always say is, or I always say is, I contrary to what everyone else says, I always say quantity over quality, and then quality in quantity, right? We're data driven, so I need enough data to be able to make a decision, right? And if you're focusing on just the quality, well, you never get to enough people to be able to figure out what works and what doesn't. So we always focus on getting enough of the things out or enough of the things done, and then look at our results, and then, try to improve the quality, but keep up the pace of the amount that we're putting out. Today, I came to them and I said, hey, we're doing a great job of producing content and clients are happy and all those different things. But I said, hey, we need to improve that quality, right? We need to. I offered a new solution to them and said, hey, we need to do this, but I'm going to leave it to you to figure out how we do it, right? How we implement it, what time, um, and I think it's my team is nimble enough to know that any given day Arias is going to come to you and he's going to not completely, but he's going to take a marker to your process. You're going to hand some in, I'm going to take that big red marker and I'll be like,
The
yeah,
red
nah,
pen, yeah, the red
right.
pen.
We need to correct this. And just having a culture of being open to guidance, being open to constructive criticism, knowing that even if this is the best thing you've ever done, you can always do better, right? You are analyzing your game. How do you make it better, and what metrics are you using to measure it?
That's that's really good because it's one of those things where I agree with the quantity piece. Because I'm a person that thinks reps practice. I believe in the law of practice and the law of reps. Essentially, is kind of how I look at it. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. And it for anyone listening, I think what he's saying really is it's like you have to do to figure out what you need to get better at. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's at the end of the day too. Man, that's so good. Take us back to a time like when you say stumbled, maybe early in your, transition. We talked a little bit about your transition from corporate to the entrepreneurship, or maybe misjudging the cost of what ownership is. What was that mistake or that key lesson that kind of carved into the way that you shape your leadership?
Key mistake. I made plenty of them. So that's maybe hard to pin down. Um, I'll say, you know, maybe 7 years ago. Yeah, probably about 6, 7 years ago, I had a little company or a little service. We called InstaFuel. So it was basically a program that we built that was a follow unfollow strategy for Instagram, which basically allowed our clients to um, target a very specific set of people, whether that was the followers of a particular account that was a competitor of yours, or maybe a account that has a large number of prospects that you'd like to kind of pay attention to. We'd go in, follow them, like a whole bunch of their pictures automatically, and then, over a period of time, kind of draw down and unfollow. And a certain period of those people would reciprocate. They follow you, kind of rummage around your profile. And if you were smart, you kind of engage with them and you could generate some prospects off of that. Um, that business took off because it was a while ago and the strategy was kind of, new. Um, and it was the first time that I started making, six figures in a month. It was amazing, right? It was a high. I was just like, finally, all this struggle, from being homeless to losing parents and, living in multiple cities and multiple country or multiple states and, living in 12 different houses before I was 18, all of that stuff, to finally arrive at a place where I'm actually seeing some consistent success at a high level. So I was excited, man. I was buying vehicles and doing all kinds of stuff. And then one day, Instagram changed their policies. They changed the algorithm, and inside of 6 months, that $100,000 a month business went down to uh, four figures, and then to three.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was tough. It was a blow, right? To be planning your life out, and I'm saving, I'm doing all these different things, and eventually and to have that just evaporate. Um and what that taught me was what I said earlier. It's never as good or as bad as you think it is, right? And what I should have been doing is I should have been pouring money into developing another service, another product, and I should have been scaling my sales team so that they can cross sell those other products and services, so that if the bottom fell out of this one, we've got something else to offer them, so we don't completely lose the business, we don't completely lose the customer. And that was a hard lesson, right? That business would have continued to flourish even now, and we'd be, millions and millions a month in, and just compounded over time. So yeah, that was a hard lesson, but a good one.
man. That's first off the resilience to keep going after that blow, because I know I genuinely can actually only imagine what it feels like to see 100,000 in your business account, or like incoming in monthly. That was probably surreal at the first, especially the first time that's happened. But then the even surrealer part when it's like it all goes away in those moments, and I think that is a reality that I think all entrepreneurs need to hear up front. It's like, hey, look, you need to prepare yourself. It's not all hunky dory, like you said, it's like a stoic mentality. You have to kind of keep, you know, in the middle. You can't get too high, you can't get too low. For someone that is just starting out, wanting to emulate the success that you now have and, discovering what you've been able to do, what are some of like the daily or weekly practices that you would suggest that person to adopt and to start defining like what they want to be known for, essentially?
Um, well, I think and I'll give you two parts of this, and one is very kind of esoteric and airy, but and then the other is more practical and tactical. The first thing I think, um, not even think, I know both because of my own journey and my own results, but also the mentors that have shaped me and the ones that I don't know personally, but I follow and stalk their success, right, and try to emulate. You've got to get to a place, if you're talking about leadership, you're trying to build your company, you're trying to be known for a thing. Consistency is the key. Um, and before you can lead anybody else, you first have to learn how to lead yourself, right? I think a lot of people don't find consistent success because they have not mastered themselves yet. So the thing that I do in all of the biggest entrepreneurs and billionaires that I know, they all have a few things in common. They typically all get up early. They all spend some kind of time doing something spiritual, whether you're religious or not, right? They spend some time with themselves, with their own thoughts, you know, looking inward in order to build themselves up and connect with something. They read religiously, right? They're always improving their knowledge base. They work out because if your body is out of whack, you don't have the energy, you don't have the stamina, you don't have the mental clarity to be able to perform at top level, compete with someone like me or them. Um, and they typically journal, right? They've got some kind of self expression to where they can get thoughts out of their head and into some kind of medium that allows them to channel it. um, Doing those things consistently, that consistency builds cadence, that cadence builds momentum, that momentum leads to self mastery and self leadership. That self leadership moves you into the thing that you're talking about, which is the outward success and branding of yourself and being known for excellence in a thing. And in that space, um, I would say, um, first, define what you want to be known for. Right? I don't think that everybody does that. I think that people believe that just because they operate in a business, that people are going to automatically know them for a thing. Yes, you may be a cook, but or chef, but what are you actually known for? Are you known for having the best ribs in your city? Are you known for operating the most efficient restaurant in your city? Not only is the food good, but it's extremely efficient and it's great service. Are you known for being extremely um, reliable, consistent, and a person of your word, man or woman of your word? Right. What are your core tenets? Right. What are the things that you truly believe on the inside of you that are important? And how do you get those things and build them into your business? Because your brand, right? A lot of people don't know what a brand is, but a brand, in my opinion, is what people say about you when you're not in the room,
Mm,
right? Your reputation should precede you. And if it does not, or if it does, but it's not positive, well, that's simply because of what you've done or how you show up for various people or don't show up. So I think the first thing you need to do is, one, master yourself. Two, be very intentional about what you want to be known for and how you want to show up and what you want people to say about you behind your back.
So good. It's that brand piece when your reputation must precede you. I think that goes overlooked. It gets overlooked a lot, you know. To the person that is looking to kind of figure out like what are the steps that you would walk a client through, to find out what they want to be known for, right? Because some people are good at plethora of things, and they not necessarily ready to speak or ready to write or ready, like they don't feel that way. How do you grab that and take that out of that person to figure out what they want to be known for?
Well, I mean, you typically want to start with the things that you're naturally gifted at, right? It's easier for you to be known for something if you're naturally gifted at it. And some people don't know what they're gifted at, right? Or maybe they want to be gifted at one thing, but that's not really their core competency. So I would say start with the people that know you best: your friends, your family, your spouse, your parents, right? And ask them straight up, what am I good at? Or ask them about the things that they know about you and let them be your mirror, right? And then secondly, you need to look at yourself and be honest about what you find important, right? And when it comes to business, what are one, two, no more than three things, right? Bullet points, bedrock things that you feel are important and things that you hold dear in your heart and are non-negotiables for you, right? And when you take those two things, what people who know you best say about you and what you feel are the bedrock of you put those together, that then becomes the nucleus of your brand. And you need to use that and infuse that in your processes. You need to infuse that into your marketing messages. You need to infuse that into the wording that's on your website. The verbiage that you use every day, right? Some of the things that I've said, like it's never as good as you think it is, never as bad as you think it is. Those are things that I say all the time because I truly believe those things, right? Um, you know, um, these terms, these sayings, you know, anybody on my team will say Arias always says that, right? Because those are the things that I truly believe and those are the things that I live by. So you find those things, and if I were them, I'd write them down and I would post them everywhere, right? I'd post them on my mirror in my bathroom. I'd put the little sticky notes under my computer. Put that in if you're still one of those that writes in your planner, right? Make that your screensaver on your phone or on your tablet or your computer, right? Things that remind you of who you are and what you want to be known for.
I love that. And I think you said something that I think I'm going to take away from this, and because I'm still working on discovering what my nucleus is, what is the nucleus of my brand, and you said something. What do you say all the time? That right there, I think about those quotes that I do say all the time, and I know you probably have it too. Sometimes it's like, oh, they give you they suck their teeth. They're like, oh, here he goes, But
Mm-hmm.
it's it's because that's what I really believe. I'm gonna say it because that's what I believe about the situation, And I think that's so cool to be able to just simply think about what you say all the time, and then kind of almost dial it back and say, reverse engineer. Okay, if I'm saying this all the time, what's the belief that I have because I'm saying this thing all the time? That's so good, man. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's that's gold. I like that. That's good.
And then take it a step further. There's the saying, what's the underlying belief? How do you attach a system to reinforce that belief in that saying? So if I look through your business and I look at how you conduct yourself, does your system and your way of conducting yourself match up with that belief in that saying? That's the through line to the brand.
Mm, wow. Yeah, I'm silent because I think you just, for people listening, you might have literally just cracked the code on what they were trying to do, because that's the part I think I'm missing, is am I aligning every single behavior with the belief, and what systems do I have in place to do that thing? And how do you go about helping that person create that system? Is it something that you help with, or like how does someone create a system for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my approach to all things marketing, sales, customer service is all systems based. My team knows I geek out on systems. So we definitely build systems and we help entrepreneurs build systems. I actually taught in my program Launch Ignition. I taught on that Monday, and I taught them about sales systems, right, and deconstructing, how you attract people, how you pitch them, what are all the touch points in between, and then once you've sold them, what are the steps and the task and all the things that need to be done to fulfill that promise, and get that thing to them, whether that's a product or a service. um so yeah, we definitely teach those things, and it's just critical. And it's, again, it's for those that maybe you don't have an MBA. I don't. So not in any way saying that you don't have one, I'm better, because I don't have one. um but those are the things that they teach, is the systems thinking, right? I always say, whatever you don't document and figure out how to duplicate, you're doomed to repeat for eternity, right?
Say that again, please. Please say that again. That was good. Say that again slowly.
Yeah, whatever you do not document and duplicate, you are doomed to repeat for eternity. So anything that you're doing in your business, right? And even in your personal life, if you can't, the first thing you have to do is you have to do it, right? You need to figure out how it's done and what success looks like in that particular activity or portion of your business, right? Whether that's sales or marketing or production or fulfillment or customer service, whatever, right? How do you do it? Once you figure out how to do it, you have to document it, right? Because the documentation is how you're able to get consistency in your results, right? Because if you can't write it down and document it, well, then you can't duplicate it. In other words, you can't teach somebody else how to do it, right? It's only you that can get that result because you're the only one that's done enough reps to understand how it's done, right? So you document it, and then you teach somebody else. That's the duplication. You have to duplicate yourself, and that person should be able to do it to 70 to 80, about 70%, 80% proficiency of you, right? So when you look at their results, they should be able to do it about 70, 80%. And then you need to give them some time to grow into that 100% and maybe 110, 120% proficiency past you. But if you can't do that first thing, doing with the intent to document, knowing that later you're going to duplicate it, well, then you're doomed to have to do it yourself. Because even when you bring somebody else on, they're going to do it and you're going to say, "Ugh, you're not doing it right." And then you end up kind of jumping in and doing it for them. And, or, you know, you don't, every time they do it, you feel that, or maybe a customer or a client says, "Yeah, I don't really like that." And you're getting complaints. So now you insert yourself back into it and you become a bottleneck. The person that you handed it to can't finish it
Yeah.
until you come and look at it and give the final stamp of approval. And that is not duplicatable. That's extremely inefficient, right? Why are you hiring somebody if you have to be the one to do it or approve it? Right now, at the beginning, absolutely, you need to be there's quality control, right? There's the I do it, we do it, you do it, right? I do it and show you, then we do it together, like training wheels, and then you kind of do it on your own. I'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on it, But, and then eventually I'm hands off and I just come around and inspect, at regular intervals, spot checks. But that's the key to systems, right? Everything that I just said, right? Do, document, duplicate, delegate, duplicate, right?
Yeah.
Do, document, uh, delegate, duplicate, right? And then decipher is the last one, right? You need that's that reporting, that's that spot checking, that's the analytics, that's the feedback of whether the system's working the way it was intended to. Those 5 Ds. Um, and when you're getting into getting this off to other people, let them do it. I mean, I'm sorry, you do it to demonstrate, do it with them, and then let them do it on their own, and then come back around and check their work.
Yeah, you've just given some really good frameworks here because I think that is that's missing a little bit in leadership, that it's kind of just like, hey, you do it. and there's not really much teaching or training really much going
Mm-hmm.
on right now. And I think the I do, we do, you do, that's a goal. That's really good. And I think that's an awesome takeaway for anyone that's trying to build teams. And what I think he's speaking on, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a scaling tactic. This is how you scale a business. This is how you duplicate yourself. So you don't have to be the person that's doing the thing. And you can then go to another business and then do the same thing with that business and then same thing. And it's the process. And like you said, it's this a system that you can now implement in every single business
Yeah.
that
And
you own.
before you even get into every business, it's in every single role and department.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you take this
true.
approach, and and everyone in my team will attest to this, there's no position in my company that Arias can't do. I sell, I do graphics, I can stand in front of the camera, I can edit it, I can come up with a copy, I can build the website, I can do the automations, I can build the app, I can do the customer service, I do the accounting, I do the ads, all the things. Why? Because I did it first, right? Every single role, I regularly step in and I train and I develop. I refine, I mold, right? I force them to accelerate and get better, right? I'm constantly bringing them new concepts and new tools and new ways to look at it and different approaches so that they can get to my level and more importantly, beyond. I love when someone on my team gets beyond my abilities because they're doing it every single day. And that should be the goal. You shouldn't be the most proficient and the smartest person in your company. If you are, well, your company is extremely limited by your proficiency. So you take that approach in all of these different roles, all of these different departments. Well, then you get into this development of how to build companies. And like you said, then you can go to another company and then you say, okay, well, I need to start with a product. How do you build the product? Let me do that. I've handed that off to somebody else. Okay, now I need to sell it. Okay, I need to market it. Okay, I need to make sure I deliver it. What's the production, customer service, on and on and on. And then you take this process on and you kind of build various levels in your company, and then you just build more and more.
That's such a good system. And what's another system that you would say you use regularly that, our audience could take away or, use immediately if they implement it? That will help them scale. Let's say it that way. That would help them not even say scale, but just grow in general.
Um, 10x, 10x your output to increase your input. And it doesn't matter what part of your company, it's mostly, specifically sales or marketing, but you need to 10x what you're doing. And whether 10x means a lot of things to different people. So if it's in marketing, maybe you are only getting leads or prospects through referrals. Okay, so that's 1x. How do you get to 10x? All right, are you running ads? That's 2x. Are you doing social media, like organic social media? That's 3x. Do you go to trade shows? That's 4x. Do you have an affiliate program? That's 5x, right? How do you start adding on things to 10x your output to increase your input, right? Or if you're starting in just social media, if you're going to go vertical instead of horizontal, right? Go deep instead of wide. Are you on just Instagram? What about Facebook? That's 2x. What about YouTube? That's 3x. What about TikTok? That's 5x. What about Pinterest? That's 6x. What about X? That's, how do you go deep in that one thing, right? You can 10x vertically or you can 10x, horizontally.
With the 10x concept though, do you say like do it all at once, or is it more like, hey, once you feel comfortable in a certain aspect, then add another aspect to your thing? Because I know as a solopreneur, like right now, me being by myself, kind of doing all of this by myself, I can do all of those things, but because I am alone, it may take away from my quality, right, of the other
Mm-hmm.
things that I want to be doing. So talk to that person. How do they 10x themselves? Is it the delegation? Is it like how do they do that?
Well, again, those two things that the conversation before this one and the one we're having now, they work hand in hand, right? So I would say before you start, set the goal. So if you are on Instagram and you just heard this random guy on a podcast tell you to 10x, so now you're thinking about going to 20 different platforms, right? Set the goal first. If you're just on Instagram, what was the goal and have you hit it? There's no point in going to 2x if you haven't actually figured out the one that you're on right now. So, if you're on Instagram and you don't have any goals, you're just posting shit and hoping something happens, well, you don't actually know if you're finding success. So, you know, we are like, hey, we got 10,000 followers on this account. Our goal is to get 2% engagement, right? I'm trying to get 200 people to like or at least view this piece of content, right? I'm putting out 10 pieces of content, 200 people each. Well, that's 2,000 views or 2,000 people that we've reached, right? Total, that's like 20% of our following. Those are the metrics. Those are the goals. Are you hitting them regularly? If not, then work your way to it. Once you've got that, again, back to the earlier conversation, do document.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
did the
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
How did you do it? And then you need to delegate that to someone so you can duplicate it. Right now, I know what success looks like with our social media,
yeah,
specifically on Instagram. Now I'm gonna hand this off to somebody who can do that regularly, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play around on YouTube so that this thing
man,
can keep going.
yeah,
Right. Or do I have the capacity to do that myself? All right, I'm in a rhythm with Instagram. Okay, that's going well. All right, let me play around over here on YouTube while I got my right hand is handling Instagram, right?
yeah,
I'm gonna play on YouTube because I got two hands. I feel like I can manage both of those, right? Again, do, document, delegate so you can duplicate, right? And then it gets going and you keep going. And then, hey, I'm gonna hop over to sales. And it's like, all right, so my leads are coming from here, or I'm doing it this way. Well, now I need to do it. I need to
yeah,
document my sale. Like I need a
yeah.
script, I need a pitch deck, I need objections, I need rebuttals, I need,
The whole
testimonials.
thing. Yeah,
I need all the things, right? And
yeah,
then I need to set a goal. I need to get myself to a certain level of proficiency, right? And then once I've proved success, well, now I need to duplicate the success in someone else, right? So that's the
man.
Xing, right? You still have to go through the process. Don't just all of a sudden jump to all the things. I'm not saying you can't post to all the social media platforms. For most people, it's not hard for you to post to all of them, but to truly develop it and get results, well, that's different, right?
That's a
There's a
different
difference
game.
in the action and the results, right? Anybody can
Yeah,
shoot the ball. Not many people can shoot it and get it in the hole within a certain percentage, of 10 shots every single time.
yeah, man. It's. I hope our listeners are taking this system away. I know I am implementing this the 5 Ds are gold. I'm not gonna lie to you because I feel like that is the formula. It is a formula for success. Like this is a success formula, right? And I hope people are listening and taking a little away from this. Last question. I got a couple closing, just closing remark, closing quick hitters for questions for you real quick. The first one, and it's going to say, it's how do you handle self-doubt when it creeps in? First question.
Um, Remind myself of who I am. Part of my morning ritual is affirmations, right? Um, Before I was um, published here, quoted here on this podcast, on this news program, this money, this car, this thing, I told myself that I was those things. And I told myself over and over again when I had no reason to believe that those things would come true other than the fact that they just came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Um, so, self-doubt is always going to creep in, but if you are in the habit of affirming yourself to where you want to be, if you are shadow boxing, if you I ran track. One of the things I always used to do in practice was I used to chase my shadow,
Hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
was also when I'm running, 400, 800, 200, whatever, I wasn't focusing on my competitors. I was chasing my shadow, right? Um, I was projecting myself into the future. So that's what affirming yourself does. Spend time telling yourself who you are, who you will be, and say it in present tense so that when that self-doubt comes in, because it's going to come, right, with friends, you got an equal amount of information in your subconscious that fights against that doubt, right? Because if you're waiting for somebody else to be your cheerleader, well, you're
Hmm.
screwed, because sometimes you will have some, maybe your girl or your friend or your mother or whatever. But what if they're not there? What if your parent passes? What if you get divorced or you break up? What if you and the friend are not on good terms, right? That external that was, bigging you up, gassing you enough to push forward, that's external. Once it's gone, do you fall back to who you actually believe you are, right? But if you focus on doing it yourself, well, then that's infinite, right? That's self-propelled, and that doesn't go away.
That's good. That's good. It's a really good way to look at it. Um, Next question. If you had to define leadership in one sentence, what would it be?
Servitude.
Mm,
The best
mm,
leaders are the ones that realize that um, they're not here to serve you. You're here to serve them, right? Your service is showing them where success is going to live, right? And you finding that path and making sure that you give them every single thing they need to be successful. As long as people are finding success, as long as you're treating them well and you're helping them meet their ends and meet their goals, they'll follow you to the end of the earth. But if you think that someone else serving you and someone else is there to make you happy, make things easier for you, well, then you are sadly mistaken. And people will eventually go somewhere else, because if they can do it for themselves and you're just getting the runoff, then why would they continue to give you the runoff? Why wouldn't they keep it for themselves?
yeah. It's really good. Nah, it's fun. I have that same frame where I'm learning leadership is serving. It is. It is that is the number one. That is what leadership is to me. And we spoke. We're not. It's not a religion podcast. It's not a podcast, but we spoke briefly about the number one to the GOAT leader, in my opinion. That's that man Jesus Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
and he was the reason he was such a great leader, in my opinion, was because he was all about service. He was all about giving, and he never forced anybody to do anything. He always just
Hmm.
asked and said, "Hey, if you would like to join, please." He never forced anyone's hand, but it's like that's a form of leadership because he was always in the form of serving. But anyway, like I said, this isn't a religion podcast, but
Yeah,
uh, there's a lot of principles that I get from the Bible, and I think it's such a great thing. Uh,
indeed.
last question for you. What's one digital marketing tactic a new entrepreneur, someone that just getting started, that they can use today to start building their personal brand and attracting leads?
It's something that we call authority stacking. I've been very heavy on this the last year. We have a product called Social Authority that we use for that, but it's rooted in this methodology or this idea of stacking your authority. And authority stacking is layer trust. It's how you build credibility over time in a world that scrolls fast and forgets even faster, right? In doing that, your content is important because it shows you're consistent, right? Just the mere fact of you putting content out regularly that is valuable shows that you're consistent, and it shows people that they can trust you, right? um, and then using third party validation like media features to prove you're respected, right? Prove that others see you as valuable as well, and they're willing to lend their platform to exemplify that to people. Using case studies, testimonials, in order to set your wins with your customers or clients in amber. Setting up some automation in various parts of your business really shows that you are reliable and that you respond to people quickly. And when you do these things, and there's a few other pieces of it, but when you do these things, it makes it very easy for people to trust you because there's consistency in various areas and you're getting um, um, validation from people that are outside of you and sources that you don't control. So, one of our clients went from being relatively unknown in our space to speaking on national stages, being asked on podcasts and TV shows. And that's just by, kind of working with us and stacking authority in the right order. It's truly powerful, and it's something that will propel you forward for years.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Aries, this has been an awesome conversation. I really do appreciate you joining me on the platform today. I mean, I think we've given a lot of gain to a lot of the audience here. Do you have any parting shots before we head out today?
Um, all I can say, man, is this entrepreneurship thing is tough. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you have a passion for what you do, you're willing to win or die trying. You will make it. Right? Plan your work your plan, and just never give up.
Love that. I love that. Plan your work your plan. Like that. That's a good one. But as for the audience, as usual, thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Think Like a Leader. As always, if you took away just one principle, one ritual, one framework that you can put into practice today or tomorrow, then we've done our jobs here today. But please, action, raw action. We talk about this a lot on the platform. Do something. We're going to give you a lot of information and all. It's going to come at you fast, but I promise you, just do something. Okay. And if you're enjoying these conversations, do make sure to follow the show wherever you listen to your podcast so you don't miss the next one, and leave us a review as well, good or bad. We appreciate the feedback so we can get more episodes out there and have more guests that you want on the show. And also, if you know anyone that's stepping into leadership, please share this episode with them. I think they're going to get a lot of value out of it. Arias, I appreciate you joining me, man. And to our audience, think like a leader. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate you, man.